I'm Marty Miller, the Executive Director of Botanica, and I'm honored and excited to give you a pre-tour of the Chinese Garden of Friendship. It'll be dedicated on June the 5th, following with a series of events called the 8 Days of Wonder. And I would like to begin telling you that the Chinese Garden of Friendship is our first sister cities garden here at Botanica, and Kaifeng, China is Wichita's sister city. And we'll be showing you a lot of art in the garden, which directly relates our garden to our sister city in China. And it's very cultural and very interesting how we have put this together, and it's going to be a great asset to Wichita and to Botanica. I'd like to start out by showing you this scroll. This scroll is of the Four Beauties, and the Four Beauties were it's a very popular story in China of four ladies who were very recognized by the emperors. And one of them is she plays her instrument so beautiful that the birds come down to the earth. One is she was so beautiful when she walked through the gardens, the flowers would close up not to compete with her. And this one is she was so beautiful that at night when she was so radiant that the moon would cloud over not to compete with her beauty. These two ladies were concubines and handmaidens, and this lady was a common girl who was so beautiful that the emperor was so enamored by her beauty that the emperor couldn't get anything done. So it's kind of an interesting myth and story about all these different ladies, and they were actually real. And so let's go this way, and we'll take you down a hallway that enters into the Chinese garden, and we end up with some tile work here. This was done by Chow Wei Liu and Terry Corbett, who did this piece, and this is the entryway of the hallway to the Chinese garden. And then what we see on the wall here is the life cycle of the lotus. The actual title of this scroll is Great Water Red Beauty, and this is an actual copy, a scanned copy of the original scroll that's held by the Nelson Atkins Art Museum. So we're very fortunate to partner with them. The actual size of the scroll is 12 inches high and 20 feet long, and when we received the scanned copy, we raised it to 3 feet, 60 feet, so it fit in this hallway. So you can see the title here, and you can see the beginning of the plant, when the plant's young, and we have going the full bloom, all the way to here, to the end of the life cycle of the plant, the end of the year. So there's a lot of interesting things that we've learned about Chinese culture. The garden itself was built by Simpson Construction Company. A lot of the materials here were actually local materials. However, all the tile work that you'll see throughout the garden actually came from China. The food dogs in the entryway, they are the protector of the gardens. They were donated by Hong's Nursery. They are made out of granite. They are from China, and it was a great addition to the entryway. Just want to let you know that the garden is still under construction, and we're still adding some art pieces, and we're still planting in the garden. So we've moved along quite a ways and just have a few pieces to do that are left to do, and as we get closer to June the 5th, the excitement's building. But this will be a big art piece here on all these columns and on these walls, and this is going to be our donor wall, and the art will be part of the donors' names will make up part of the art. So let's venture into here. In fact, the garden itself is a scholar-style garden. And there's a difference between a scholar garden and an emperor garden. The scholar gardens were somewhat plain, and we'll notice that most of the color and the paint here is a plum color. And in the scholar gardens, they were not allowed to be very fancy like in the emperor gardens, which all the rafters are painted with stories and of the wars and of the emperors and the empresses and their families. But the scholar garden is primarily made up of two parts. The entrance part is very plain and very formal. And sometimes they would call this garden the dirty garden because it would be closest to the road. And this pavilion here, this is our Rose Wind Pavilion, or our water pavilion, and it would symbolize the owner's home. So the formal garden will be in front of the owner's home, and there would usually be two other homes. There would be a house where the workers lived, and then there would be a house where furthest away from the owner's home where the children lived. It's kind of unique, and we have this style, and ours is actually a classical garden because we're not an actual true scholar garden, but we have the same style. This tile work here, and you notice the roof beasts that are up on the roofs, they all symbolize authority and safekeeping and looking over the gardens to be protectors. And we'll go inside the Rose Wind Pavilion, and the first art piece is a plum tree, and the plum flower is the national flower of China. So this symbolizes the flower and is part of the garden, and this piece was done by Jenny Becker, who is a local artist here in Wichita. We can take a look at the leak windows, and each of those designs were done by another local artist, and her name is Chow Wei Lu. And Chow Wei manages Gallery 12, and you can see a lot of her art there. This pond area symbolizes the sea, and you see there's an island in the pond. And then the Scholar Gardens, there were three parts of the water feature. The waterfalls, which symbolize the falls in the Yellow Mountains, a stream, which would be the Yellow River, and the pond area is the sea. And you see the island here in the middle of our pond, or to the side of the pond, which that would be where the spirits live. We already have some koi in here, and we've planted some lotus and lilies that will be in this pond. Of course, the lotus flower is a very coveted flower in China, and Kaifeng is actually located on the same latitude as the Kansas-Oklahoma line. So a lot of plants that they grow there, we already grow here. The chrysanthemum was actually propagated in Kaifeng, and each year they have a huge chrysanthemum festival. This is the Qingming scroll. This scroll is a piece of art that every Chinese child learns about in grade school, like we do about the Pilgrims and the Mayflower and the beginning of our country. This was a part of the beginning of their country and of civilization. This is actually a picture of Kaifeng during the Sung Dynasty during their springtime river festival. So just like Wichita has a river festival, they had a river festival, and the emperor wanted to show the people what happens during the river festival. And you can see the Yellow River comes up through here. You can see the merchants and unloading the boats and the marketplace down there and where the emperor sits. So this is quite a piece, and it has a lot of meaning to the Chinese culture. And we've already started our plantings with hostas, which are also from China. We've tried to stay pretty close to planting plants that you would find in China, and particularly in the Kaifeng area, which is common to us as well. As we get close here to the waterfall, we have a pavilion that's called the Treasured Friend Pavilion, or the Mountain Pavilion. This is where the scholars would sit and meditate, and this is where a lot of ideas were born in which they would tell the emperor. The falls, again, are symbolized the falls in the Yellow Mountains. The stream is the Yellow River. And in the gardens, in the scholar gardens, there would be a bridge. And there's a lot of stories about bridges. One of the stories is that there was an ox herder and a weaver, and they fell in love. But the gods wouldn't let them join together, so they separated them by the Milky Way. Well, one of the gods, who just happened to be a male god, he says, let's give them a break. So once a year, and this is during the autumn fall festival, they would bring all the crows together to form a bridge. So once a year, the ox herder and the weaver were allowed to meet each other, and it's quite a story. And there's several stories about bridges. So we named our bridge the 1,000-Foot Bridge. Now we're entering through the wall, and on this wall is a dragon. Dragons are very spiritual to the Chinese. This dragon, particular dragon, is the keeper of the underground treasure. And you see the pearl that's in the dragon's mouth. He's making sure that the treasure is not tampered with. This piece was also done by Jenny Becker. So this garden complements our new event center, which we call Lotus Hall. Then we have attached to this an area of a new terrace area, and we have murals on the wall, and they were done by Chow Wei Lu, one of the wood ducks and one of the cranes, and the two birds together in a mural. They mean healthy families, healthy couples, and love and friendship. There's strong meanings of everything here in this garden. So this is the perfect place to have a wedding, to have all kinds of events. And I want to say that this garden would not be possible without the support of this community and the donors who felt it to be very important for us to build this garden, and the volunteers that have helped put the garden together. So it's been a tremendous outpouring of community involvement, and we're all excited about it. It's going to be an absolute destination attraction for the city of Wichita. The Chinese Garden of Friendship was, the cost of it was about $1.2 million to build. We raised through several large donors and a lot of community donors about, well, it was over $1.5 million. So we were able to build the garden with that much. The 8 Days of Wonder will begin on Friday, June the 5th, and it will start at 3 o'clock with a dedication. And the dedication will end about probably 4:30 or so. And then we are having a special event for the donors that evening. And then Saturday following that, we're having activities for children and families. And then Sunday is another open day here all the way through Wednesday. There's going to be the Sister Cities group will be here, and they'll be telling about their trips to China and that kind of thing. And there'll be other activities here. In fact, we're trying to get, and a lot of people don't know this, but we actually, in Wichita, there is a Chinese ping pong ball team here, which have won national tournaments. So we're trying to get some of those folks here to do an exhibition, a ping pong exhibition. There's going to be on Tuesdays on the Terrace, which will be on June the 11th, or excuse me, 9th. It'll actually be held in this garden, so it'll be a celebration of the part of the 8 Days of Wonder. And so there's going to be art activities, and there's going to be all kinds of things all the way through to the following Friday. There'll be costs, like if you're going to purchase food or something like that, but it's pretty well, most of the events are going to be free of charge, because we want the community to come in during that 8-day period to see the gardens. Now, during the regular hours in which we're not having an event, there'll be an entry charge, but which will be our normal $7 for adults and $5 for children. But during the events in which we're doing all kinds of just different demonstrations and art and all kinds of activities, they're open to the public.